Critic Christy Lemire says this film is extremely earnest and more than a little corny, but there's an innocence about it that makes it kinda irresistible. Jay Boyar of the Orlando Sentinel calls it the best live-action movie musical since Little Shop of Horrors. And Letterboxd user Mary Ann K01 says, it's unfortunate that she was not a teenage girl in 1992. If she was, she would have single-handedly saved this film from flopping. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Newsies.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods. This is Dan here with my brother, literally, Jon. How's it going, Jon?
Okay, before we start, I'm doing fine, thank you. Before we started recording, we were discussing a situation in which Dan has something that I could benefit from, and I said, hook a literal brother up. And I think that that's just stuck in your head a little bit. So, yes, I am Dan's literal brother. I didn't think that anybody would think otherwise when you said that I was your brother. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
I figured I'd throw that in there, So that's how it is. So, we're here to do what we do. Let's talk about some classic movies and whatever, just movies in general, and talk about their potential in the reboot, remake, sequel, prequel, spin-off, adaptation, what have you, universe. Speaking of, this is quick.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I meant to mention this last time, but I just want to shout out and also, I guess, put the call out there about the sequel to Heat.
Oh,
Michael Mann's Heat 2, the novel. And this is like, it's one of those things that we might recommend on this show. And I have not had a chance to read the book yet. I would like to. And I'm curious, first of all, if anyone's read it, please, kind of check in. Let us know how it is. Email us at ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Heat is not a movie that we've discussed.
No. Yeah, I'm thinking about the movie Heat and how it ends, and I'm just like kind of taking mental stock of like, okay, who do we got? All right, what's going on? And I've seen it somewhat recently, and I think I still need a rewatch to refresh my memory fully on what it would be. And I don't even know if Heat 2 picks up where Heat 1 left off or what the story is. So I'm looking forward to that. Heat is a really fascinating movie.
Heat is it's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I would say that's the one where it was kind of like there was such a big deal made of like De Niro and Pacino sharing the screen, like not just in the same movie, but like in the same scene.
Right, because of course they had been in the same film before, Godfather 2, notably, but had not shared the screen. And, I remember it, I remember when it came out, I remember going to see it, and I feel like, I don't know if I was disappointed when I originally saw it, if I was a bit overwhelmed by it. But I feel like it's one of those movies that I don't think it got its due. I don't remember it being talked about with the respect and reverence that it's talked about now. And I don't think it quite landed at the time the way that it has really kind of settled in and become I think a lot of movies from that year, sorry, just to kind of sidebar here, but a lot of movies from that year, 1995, that have really held up and have really shown that, like, you know, how good they are, weren't necessarily recognized in the, you know, end of the year awards. Heat was not a Best Picture nominee. I don't remember it being nominated. It might have been nominated for like editing, or sound design, or whatever, but I don't remember it being, you know, really like a big Oscar contender. And when we think back to 1995, it's one of those movies that we really like. It kind of defines that year, and it's one of the classics. Seven being another.
Yeah, you know, and I think that for Heat, that's one where it kind of was, as kind of the movie is, a bit of a slow burn, where, you know, I think that, you know, because the year before we had Pulp Fiction, and I think that when we think about these kind of like crime movies, you know, we're kind of in this phase in the like mid 90s, like early to mid 90s, where the like independent, you know, the rise of the independent movie becoming the more prominent and getting the most recognition, you know, especially speaking of things like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Another 1995 film, Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects also, exactly. So I think that ones like Heat, with a lot of your more known actors, you know, your legacy actors, maybe weren't getting the attention that you would expect them to get by putting a movie out like that. But now we, you know, it has kind of stood the test of time in terms of its quality, and you know, and it's one that people come back to. So
it reminds me of Shawshank in that respect, where it's one that has really just over time worn those grooves into the zeitgeist, and it's like a Sunday afternoon movie. It's one of those like, oh, if I'm flipping through channels and Heat is on, I'm watching it. Or if I'm looking for something to have on while I'm getting stuff done on a Sunday after, like, Heat is on.
I don't know. The Heat is on. I don't know if I would put. I don't know if I would put on Heat.
I wouldn't put Shawshank on.
Doing something else. Shawshank I would put on because I feel like Shawshank, you know, you kind of feel the rhythms of the movie going on. Where I feel like with Heat, it requires you to pay a little bit more attention. And I think that Heat is also one where the more you watch it, the more nuances you find that might not necessarily be there in Shawshank.
All right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Thanks.
You know, I just like the gunfights and when the things go boom. Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I don't like those things as much. I much prefer the character moments. You know, Robert De Niro in the diner having conversations and, you know, like stuff like that.
No, actually, when I'm talking about the things go boom, I'm talking about Pacino.
Of course.
She's got a great ass.
Oh, my God.
It is quality. Like, I love the mid-90s screamy Pacino movies. I did not appreciate them at the time, but I really do enjoy watching some of them when he goes all out. I can't, like Scarface, I know we've talked about before. That one's a bit overwhelming.
I'll take a devil's advocate over most things.
Yes, Devil's Advocate is fantastic.
Yeah.
So good.
You got like fantastic Keanu in there. You have early Charlize Theron.
Oh, Keanu doing an accent.
So good. Oh yeah, the southern.
Yes, Keanu doing an accent, which, man, I don't know that Keanu has ever pulled off an accent. I feel like Keanu is at his best when he's just like, he's natural.
Yeah.
In terms of accents.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. So,
Dan, I got a question for you.
What's
the last movie you've seen?
Last movie I've seen? Newsies.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, aside from Newsies, what's the last movie?
Aside from Newsies, Let's see. I mean, I only like get a chance to watch things when I'm, like doing chores and things like that. So I'll be watching things on my phone, and I don't remember. Excuse me, I don't remember the last thing. Other than news. Why? What's the last movie you saw?
As you clear your throat or do whatever you got to do.
Pardon me.
Last night I watched This Is Spinal Tap, and just because it's great, it's just so good.
Yes,
love that movie. It's perfect. It's a perfect movie. I've been thinking a lot about directors' first films. Directors who have come to prominence, and not to say that Rob Reiner was a nobody when he directed This Is Spinal Tap. Certainly he had a full acting career and comes from, writing, directing, comedy royalty. But This Is Spinal Tap, it's his first movie that he's directed, and it's wonderful. It's so good.
He doesn't make it like he's, like some, Hollywood. He really does make, I mean, even to the point of taking on the persona of what Marty DeBurgi is that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, This Is Spinal Tap is great. And you talked about it. And it's one of those that's kind of always on I could put this on.
Totally. That's one that you could put on when you're doing laundry. For sure.
Oh,
because the music is great. When you glance up and you see them and something funny is going on and you just enjoy it in that moment.
Well, yeah, and you know the points where you wanna look up when Harry Shearer is stuck in the pod.
That's the exact thing I was thinking about when I was saying that. Oh my God, it's so funny. And one of the things that I really appreciate about that movie is like, you can hear the live performance in those moments. You can tell that it's not just like a pre-recorded track, that there's and when he's in that pod and he's not able to play the bass because he's trying to get out, you don't hear the bass. And then you kind of see him go back to it and it's like not perfect. And you see the other guys looking at him like, what is going on?
It's so funny. And they're just all so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of talent that you have in the Christopher Guest films in general. And I think someone posted something. It was Fred Willard's birthday recently. And they posted a tribute. It was just like all of these like quotes from all of the Christopher Guest movies. But you think about him and Jane Lynch, John Michael Higgins, Michael Hitchcock, who pops up in the first episode of A League of Their Own. They're so good, and those three especially.
Shearer also, with Fred Willard and This Is Spinal Tap, I was listening a little bit more closely to the things that he's saying, and he's just kind of riffing, and as he's kind of bringing them over to where they need to be, and he's just like, if you ever come across an act out of and he mentions some restaurant or hotel, and it's called Four Jacks and a Jill. And it's just like, wow, that is exactly the kind of thing that you could hear him saying in any of the other movies, essentially. And it's just like, oh my God, it's perfect.
Yes.
But,
absolutely.
Yeah. But Dan, the latest movie that you saw is Newsies.
Yes, that's the latest. I'm really trying to. Oh, you know what? I did watch. The last movie I watched while I was doing my little hubby chores. I did watch Escape from L.A. over the course of a few sessions. Yes, I did. I had never really seen it before, or I'd seen part of it and was like, when I watched it, I just kind of dismissed it as like, this is stupid. But I turned it on and I was like, you know what? I'm in the mood to watch something that's just basically John Carpenter and Kurt Russell having a lot of fun. That's what it is.
You got Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. You got Buscemi is in it. With Stacy Keach.
Oh, Stacy Keach.
Love Stacy Keach is in there. Yep. Oh, geez. Oh, who else is...
Does he surf while shooting a gun? Is that a thing that
Peter
happens?
Fonda. Yes.
Peter Fonda, great.
Yes. They have a surfing scene, and like the effects are like awful. Like the surfing in this looks like the surfing in Back to the Beach.
Oh wow.
Like the Frankie Avalon surfing. No, I mean the effects are bad, but it's like you just don't care.
It's campy. Yeah.
Oh, and it's funny because now, yeah, I'm glad I remember because I was thinking about it. Snake Plissken, like, has the worst. He has like no comebacks. He has no witty lines. Like someone will say something like, Snake, you're a real piece of shit. And he'll just be like, yeah, I know.
So what if I am,
but it's great. And I love the way Kurt Russell plays. It's like Kurt Russell doing Clint Eastwood, some type of post-apocalyptic Clint Eastwood. And it's a lot of fun, especially when you know that Kurt Russell's also like, the dad in Overboard. And
okay. All right. So let me ask you this question. Kurt Russell. So when Kurt Russell was really young, he was a Disney kid and appeared in a bunch of like Disney movies to the point that Walt Disney's last words were Kurt Russell. Because did you not know this?
No.
He was essentially saying like, that's the kid. Like, that's the kid, like Kurt Russell, that's the one. And,
I bet you Walt was imagining Snake Plissken.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was wondering is just like, what do you think Walt Disney would say about the direction of Kurt Russell's career? Just just kind of funny.
I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, but then there's the Santa Claus movies he does on Netflix with Goldie Hawn.
Oh, absolutely.
So who really knows what Walt would say?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the in the 5 decades since Walt Disney's death from lung cancer, a periodically recurring urban legend persists. Okay, that the animation mogul's last dying words were Kurt Russell. I've heard this for years from a lot of different places. I don't know if it's necessarily urban legend, but
I mean, if it is, it's a fun urban legend. Like
it's great.
I can't believe I've never heard that before.
I'm surprised that you never would have heard that. So, Walt Disney, the legacy lives on, and especially a big resurgence in the 90s. And then you have movies like Newsies come up that maybe didn't live up to the standards of the House of the Mouse, but it lives on in infamy.
But you know what Disney did with it, what Disney does, and they turned it around. They figured out a way to make it to make it work. But that's
well, I think that came in time. I think that it's a real heat situation, and that people figured it out later and kind of worked for them in that way.
It's less a heat situation, I think, and more of a I don't know, the example I can think of is way more specific, but like I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane, a line that became a line in that movie, Snakes on a Plane, because as soon as fans heard that Samuel L. Jackson was in a movie called Snakes on a Plane, that was the line everyone imagined and on, was posting on the, whatever AOL, whatever it was then. When that movie came out. So I think anyway, we're kind of, kind of starting at the end of the story here, but Newsies, a 1992 movie, was not successful as a film and was revived as a Broadway musical. Which was much better received, but I think that came after years and years, however many years, 20 years, 15 years. The musical premiered in September 2011, September 25th, 2011, at the Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn, New Jersey.
Right, near where we grew up.
Yeah. So a hop, skip, and a jump. and it played on Broadway. It started March 29th, 2012, and then closed August 24th, 2014. So it was successful. It moved to the West End. There's tours. I
remember seeing a performance of one of the songs during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. It's like that's exactly what that's for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you've got and you could watch it on Disney Plus. Like it's
right.
The recording.
The
it's there. Yeah. You watch the musical, you can watch the movie as well.
Yeah. So going back to 1992, here I am, a 9-year-old kid. This movie was exactly for my demographic. A 9-year-old suburban white boy that lives close to New York, but not so close that I'm actually an urban boy. I'm a suburban boy. And I remembered seeing this movie in the theater. Maybe it was with our mother or friends of the family. I feel like it was either our mom or our past guest, Jeff Rubin's mother, Merrill, and meaning that Jeff was probably also there, and our brother Scott was probably with us too, who would have been, well, I don't know exactly what month did this come out? I'm just going to ask you because you probably know.
It came out in April of 1992.
Okay. So
it's like a spring break movie, not spring break from college, of course.
Yeah, so I'm 9, Scott is 10. We're living it up. We have no responsibilities and everything's great. And here we are going to see Newsies, and not that I ever retained any of the songs or even the plot, but it was just fun and the dancing was great, and like, I don't know, there was just like a fun energy to it. It was kind of like, it had like a Hook kind of energy to a lot of the things going on, where you have these kids who each have their own distinct quirk, and, there's slingshots, and there's, kids kicking adults in the butt and making them fall over, and, those kind of shenanigans. Like, that was,
yes.
Oh man, the early 90s. So many shenanigans. It was wonderful. And so when I heard that it like didn't do well, because I mean, when I was 9, I wasn't paying attention to, box office takes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I wasn't reading, Siskel
Premiere.
or Ebert. What's that?
I was like, Premiere.
Well, I wasn't reading Premiere.
No. I wasn't reading it when Premiere. I was 9.
Right, but you were reading it when you were 14 or 15.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So back to Newsies.
So anyway, to me it just was like, oh yeah, everybody loves Newsies, because everybody that was in my age group loved Newsies, where I lived, where I grew up. And so to hear that it like didn't do that well, and then also, later in life when, you meet people in your same age range from other parts of the country or world, then, of course, everybody gravitated towards Newsies. So, but, child ticket prices, I guess, are a little bit lower. It's maybe a lot of like home video sales and rentals and things like that. So, anyway, I feel like this movie is maybe a little different for me than it would be for a lot of other people, because I do have that nostalgia factor.
Yeah, you see, not me.
Right, because you were slightly older.
5 years. Yeah.
It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because let's see.
5 years, yeah.
Well, okay, 1992, what were you into?
What was I like, let's see, April 1992. I remember going to see The Babe, the movie where John Goodman played Babe Ruth.
Sure. I remember
that. But yeah, I mean, we're talking like less than a year later. I'm going by myself to see The Crying Game in a theater, like as soon as I possibly can. So So yeah, Newsies was not my cup of tea. Like this was when I was, I think, on the cusp of discovering. I was getting into more serious films. This was
See, Dan,
months.
I was into Hair Jordan, the Bugs Bunny Michael Jordan collaboration, and you were into Neil Jordan.
Oh, damn! Oh, that was good.
Thanks. Moving on.
But yeah, no. When I think about 1992 and I think about just like how far on the other side of the scale were the movies I was going to see, like Raising Cain, Unforgiven. I'm trying to remember.
How'd you like Raising Cain when you were
I loved Raising Cain. I loved it.
John
that shit
Lithgow
was crazy. I haven't seen it in a long time, but man, I don't think I appreciated it, but I've also been getting back. I've been like getting into Brian De Palma recently, but it's another story for another time. Yeah. So Newsies wasn't my thing, wasn't my bag, baby, as Austin Powers would say.
Oh my God. All right. I'm going to let you take a break from talking and I'm going to do a little synopsis. Okay.
Oh, and a great.
I'm going to let you do a little bit of a hard reset on the old brain. Okay. You ready? Okay. I got double thumbs up. At the end of the 1900s, trouble was afoot on the streets of New York City. No, it wasn't gangsters or horse thieves. It was unfair labor practices between newspaper tycoon Joseph Pulitzer and the young men and boys who worked the streets selling his papers. These kids, colloquially referred to as Newsies, decided to fight back by going on strike. Really, true story. And much like a newspaper, we see it all unfold in this 1992 live-action musical. At the core of the strike is Jack Kelly, who dreams of moving to Santa Fe as he runs from the truth of his troubled family story. Jack is the hero to all of his peers and makes quite the impression on David and Les, the new kids on the Newsies scene. They're selling papes to help support the family after their father was fired from his job. Jack also catches the eye of their sister, Sarah. Ooh la la. But things begin to work out for the Newsies once they get the attention of Brian Denton, who decides to cover the story of the strike in his newspaper. But this draws unwanted attention for Jack, who's on the run from a center for juvenile delinquents that has inhumane practices. And just as Pulitzer begins to sweat, the law catches up with Jack. Will he escape from the firm grasp of the law? Will he ever get to Santa Fe? Find out in Act 3 of Newsies. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a cast rundown. Christian Bale is Jack Kelly. We all love seeing Christian Bale singing and dancing. And we all know what's come of that guy. One of the greatest we have. David Moscow is David Jacobs. David Moscow, you'd remember as the younger version of Tom Hanks in Big. Then we have Luke Edwards as his little brother Les. Brian Denton is played by Bill Pullman, who's just delightful. He is kind of in that perfect Bill Pullman era where everything is Bill Pullman all the time. And then we've got Anne Margaret as Jack's adult friend, who is a kind of a vaudeville performer, burlesque dancer, kind of.
She reminded me of there's the character in Oliver that's right, like this. I don't think she's a singer. I think she just sings songs in Oliver, but she's like the bar wench with the heart of gold. And
yeah,
I feel like Anne Margaret was the Disney version of that.
Right, exactly. Robert Duvall plays Joseph Pulitzer. And then let's see, who else do we have? Max Casella is one of the kids. Who else do we have here? I know there's probably some other familiar faces.
Kevin Teig, or I don't know if I pronounced that right. Kevin Teig, who's Mr. Snyder. He's the warden of the boys' home. Oh
yeah,
and you would recognize him. I mean, from Lost, he played Locke's father.
Right.
On Lost. He's one of my favorite baseball movies, 8 Men Out. He's one of the guys who like rigs the 1919 World Series.
He's the following year after Newsies, he's in School Ties.
Oh, right. Oh, I think he's the coach, right, in School Ties?
Yes.
He's likable. I know he plays a likable character in School Ties because it's like, oh, that guy usually plays a dick. But he's likable.
You see him in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He's in stuff. You just see him.
I mean, also he's
in Roadhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's the guy who like hires Dalton in that.
Yeah.
So, Michael Lerner, who I think had just been nominated for an Academy Award for Barton Fink, if I'm not mistaken. When this came out, he plays Mr. Weasel,
right?
Who they all call Mr. Weasel, and not gonna lie, thought that was a little anti-Semitic. I mean, well,
it's
Disney.
The same. It's the same joke that they do in Frozen with somebody with the same name.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Who else? Barton Fink, Blank Check, Radioland Murders, Road to Wellville. He's been in everything.
Yeah, you definitely would recognize him if you saw him, and he's like in Barton Fink, he's the studio head who hires Barton Fink. He's wonderful.
Yeah, he has that Coen-y look.
Yeah. Yes. Also, Jeffrey DeMunn, who you'd know from The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah?
He's Dale in The Walking Dead, among other things. Very, very familiar. And Deborah Lee Furness, an Australian actress who is married to an Australian actor, Hugh Jackman.
Really?
Deborah Lee Furness plays Esther Jacobs, the mother of David and the siblings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think those are the people that generally would be familiar to people. Gabriel Damon, who plays Spot Conlon, who's like the Brooklyn. He's the boss of Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn.
Newsies. Yeah, Brooklyn's here. RoboCop 2
Brooklyn.
fans would recognize him. He's like the kid, like crime lord.
He's got a great look to him.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess I could see him being like a young Kurtwood Smith type of,
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen RoboCop 2, but if I remember,
not that he's playing an actual young Kurtwood Smith, but he's got that like menace, like kind of a bit of a menacing look to him. Precocious kid with a slingshot, totally up his alley.
Oh, absolutely, like born to play that role. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So I think that's everyone in the cast, and of course the director is Kenny Ortega, who
I think High School Musical, a bunch of those like kind of music-y, dancey kind of things.
Disney, the Disney things. But he also choreographed. So he was a choreographer. He choreographed Dirty Dancing, among others, dance sequences in Ferris Bueller's Pretty in Pink, St. Elmo's Fire. He also directed Hocus Pocus, though I don't see Hocus Pocus 2 on here. But yeah, all the rest of this is Disney. Descendants, not to be confused with the like Alexander Payne film,
right?
Descendants with George Clooney. No, this one's about like the children of Disney villains. So, Kenny Ortega, but this was his first film, and so nice that it kind of. Oh, he was also the choreographer for To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So Newsies.
So Dan, what were your impressions on this watching of Newsies?
So I guess. I watched it in sections, watched like the first hour and 15 minutes or so with my family. So with my 8-year-old. And
what'd she think?
That was fun. She was like, she liked it. She liked it. She liked it enough that she didn't like start doing other things during it. And I don't know. I think I just kind of like, when it was time to kind of pick it up again and watch it again, I was kind of like,
Didn't have the same effect.
Yeah, like it was fun to watch it with her, because it's like, it was almost like I wanted to enjoy it, but felt like I could enjoy it more vicariously through her.
Got it. See, I think that when I was watching it, I kind of like let myself slip into the mindset of like the world of that type of movie where it's like the singing and dancing.
Well, and I was going to ask, like, if you were able to kind of reconnect to that feeling of like what it was like seeing it in the theater.
No, I don't think so, because I don't really remember anything about the movie. I don't remember any of the songs or anything like that. Of course, like clips resurface and get shared around if it's, a juxtaposition of Christian Bale then versus him in like American Psycho or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say Rescue Dawn. I don't know why.
Yeah, no. So, no, it's just a lot of clips of him in Newsies and then him in Vice as Dick Cheney. No, so anyway, it was a lot of fun for me to watch, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I guess I looked at it and I was thinking a lot about movies now that kind of have that same kind of feeling. And I'm thinking, and I know it's already been a long time, but there are the movies like High School Musical and whatever, but and I don't know. I just don't know if that's really so much of a thing anymore. And I think that one of the things that was really cool about Newsies is that, it did take place 100 years in the past, essentially. And it is capturing New York at a very different time. And I just don't know if there are those types of like, fun period pieces anymore for kids. Exactly. You're shaking your head.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm shaking my head because I would say they're few and far between, and I'm even trying to think of one that would be similar to Newsies. Like I was thinking about Little Women, but that's not like necessarily for kids the way Newsies is. I was thinking, there was another one that came to mind that was. Oh, never mind that. No, that.
I mean, we have movies like the latest West Side Story, for example, and it's like, I think that's close. It's still people who are still a little bit older.
But that's not. Know. That's not. I don't like. That's not the same vibe. Like
maybe something like Pitch Perfect, although that's like contemporary songs.
It's yeah, and the humor is there's more like adult humor. Adult. Like that's one thing about this is there's really nothing too objectionable about it. It's very Dickensian. It's very like speaking of Oliver Twist and all the boys. Yeah,
Charles Dickens in Brooklyn.
Yeah, basically. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything recent like this. Even stuff that's like on the Disney Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Or, sorry, Disney Plus.
Sure, it's fine.
Yeah. Old school, the Disney Channel. I forget which square that was on the big brown remote control. Let's see.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
anyway. So then I guess is that the is that the way to kind of revive Newsies? Is not necessarily to like make another Newsies film, but kind of like find another story, find like find another
I
story
think
to
so.
tell?
I mean, here's the thing. The 1899 newsboys strike of New York or whatever, like who thought that would have made a good movie for kids that would be a musical? Like, I think that was just, dumb luck that ended up becoming something that people ended up really clinging on to. I mean, it's taking a piece of history and giving it a different kind of spin and a really fun storyline that you can attach to it. And I don't know, I'm sure that, there's lots of great stories of these things that certainly people don't really remember that have happened over the course of time that, can be fun for kids. I think that because this is a story about kids, you're able to really, I don't know, tap something different.
Right. It's also, it's really tricky because you're also like, in this, they're kind of taking child labor and I don't want to say making light of it because I don't think that's what they're doing, but it's fodder for a musical and, the
Right.
exploitation of youth. You can't do that about, like child soldiers in the Sierra Leone.
No. But I think that also something with this is that, yes, it is children working, but also it's really more about the community of these kids and
right,
the camaraderie.
The community and, well, also the advocacy and.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
I'm going to edit that out so you could just pick up wherever you were leaving off.
Okay.
Advocacy.
Sorry. He just kind of had a little, woo. He's good. Yeah, no, there's a lot about Newsies. I feel like they do a really good job of bringing out the positive message about, loyalty to your friends, being true to yourself. Yeah. Also, I got to call this out, and musical theater people, you know what I'm going to bring up here. So we have the song Santa Fe in this, which is not my favorite song in Newsies. And, it's a nice moment for Jack. It's just, not a great song. But then just a few years later in Rent, there's another song called Santa Fe. It sounds very different. And I like the one in Rent better, but I have to wonder, how is it these two things that, and Jonathan Larson could have very well been working on Rent when Newsies came out.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wonder. I'm curious.
Okay. Well, while we're on that subject, it should be noted that the music is by Alan Menken, who certainly has written his fair share of memorable and iconic music. He's been doing, the Disney grind for decades and decades.
I think Little Mermaid was the first Disney one, talking about a remake that's been making headlines.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so let's see. He did Little Shop of Horrors, and that was also with Howard Ashman, the late Howard Ashman.
Right. Yeah, so Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback, Hercules, Tangled, and I think recently, won some awards for even like the Tangled, like the series on Disney Plus. So and then continued on to do a lot of these and kind of helping adapt them to be maybe more Broadway friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So, continues to do the Disney thing.
I mean, it seems to work for him.
But what a career, pretty much starting off with Little Shop.
It's amazing. I mean, yeah, was that his first?
That was the first thing where he was credited as a songwriter. The first film where he's credited as a songwriter.
Oh, okay. So I'm curious. Yeah, in terms of musicals, what had he done before Little Shop? But you look at his body of work. I mean, you've got Beauty and the Beast, the first animated film to ever be nominated for Best Picture.
So, Little Shop of Horrors, off Broadway, West End, then Broadway. So that was in 1982.
Anything before that?
It's God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater.
Oh.
And then before that, there was Dear Worthy Editor. So that was, he collaborated with his mother to develop the musical, adapted from the Bintel Brief Letters to the Editor, published by the Yiddish language newspaper Jewish Daily something. It cuts off there.
What?
Okay.
Wow. So, I mean, yeah, quite a career. He was a songwriter for Sesame Street. Yeah.
Oh, let me read a couple other things from his stage musical background. Sister Act, Leap of Faith, A Bronx Tale the Musical.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just to name a few.
Yeah.
Alan Menken,
the king of adaptations. All right. So, what would you do with Newsies? What's your Sorry, there's a little fly just flying around.
I could see your Joe just going nuts.
It is just kind of hovering just out of reach, and yeah, I just want to kill it. But all right, I'm going to ignore it.
Okay, so I think that there is room in this world for another Newsies. Maybe something that takes place a few years later with a different set of characters. Because I feel like the popularity of the movie is, I don't know, it's really, to me, a perfect opportunity to get some of the, like, today's youth of music performers and dancers. And, you know, I think that's something that, you know, stood out to me is, like, you have these actors who you've seen in other things, but they're not musicals. You know, you have people like David Moscow or Max Casella. And, you know, there are people you've seen in things that have nothing to do with music at all. And then you see them in this, and it's fun, and they're doing these amazing dances. And, you know, they might not be the best singers, but that's fine. That's kind of part of it. It's not expected for them to be, like, amazing singers. And, like, even Christian Bale, like, his singing voice was not great. He wasn't, like, perfect at singing, but it worked because... why should he be good at singing? He's a newsie.
Yeah,
you know?
But he's also in a
the
musical.
Dancing is a different thing.
Yeah, But
I kind of liked that he wasn't pitch perfect. Just to say that those two words again together.
Thrown in there too. That was something that I didn't. I guess that was something where I don't know. It was another thing that I noted that I was like, not a fan. Like, I'm not a fan. Like, when he was singing Santa Fe, and I'm like, first of all, I don't like the song. Secondly, Christian Bale, not really a singer. So, I guess
but I kind of like that. So what I'm saying is, you know, bring in some fresh talents. And, you know, maybe mix in some girls in there too. I think that that's a really cool era to explore. And, you know, the fashions are fun. And I think that there's a lot of other really great stories if you really wanted to base something off of a true story that you could mine there. But doesn't necessarily have to be. If you would have told me that they made up this newsboy strike, I would have been like, that's fine too. I'm cool with that. But, you know, it just happens to be part of history. So yeah, I would just do another, get Alan Menken on the horn, get him to write a few more songs, and let's just see something fresh. I want to. I love seeing the new acting talents kind of coming up and making, like, showing who they are, showing their personalities. I've gone on record, big Jacob Tremblay fan. Well, I can't wait to see what becomes of that guy. And like I love watching those movies where those kids have a chance to show off their talents.
Yeah.
How about you, Dan? What do you think?
Well, for me, I was thinking more along the, like, so first of all, I would say in the spirit of having a film that kind of honors the tradition of this type of film.
Okay.
I would love to find a story, like, it would be fun to find another story that could be adapted into musical. And yeah, agreed. Like, it could totally be fictional, but I think the added bonus of having a true story, having it based in history, is that it brings attention to something like that. And, I think about how it took The Watchmen for so many people to know about the Tulsa massacre. So, like over like 100 years ago that this happened, and that so many people didn't know about it until the HBO Max series Watchmen. So so that's one thing. I also, like, in regards to the actual Newsies strike. So, like, I was thinking it would make a good Ken Burns style documentary. Yeah. Okay. I was also thinking, like, you could do a series. Like, I know it's like same kind of like the same time period, but the people that do Peaky Blinders, I was like, they got that. They got that well. So to see them do, or anyone really do a series about, that series would not just be the strike, obviously, but, like, what was life like for these kids? I doubt family life for most of the Newsies that had families was as pleasant as David's.
Uh-huh.
Like,
something else to think about. It's 30 years later. What would be 30 years later for them? Great Depression. You get old Jack back in there, Christian Bale, doing a Great Depression musical. Everyone's favorite.
He loses all this money and has to go back to selling newspapers.
Yeah. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
This is true. Oh, speaking, you get some kids from Stranger Things.
Get some strange. I mean, they're not kids anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess they've aged out of being able to play Newsies, huh?
Yeah.
The Stranger Things.
I think so.
No Finn Wolfhard. No, what was it? Gaten Matarazzo, like, who has a beautiful singing voice.
Yes, he does. I think they all have decent singing voices. They did some singing on some television appearances.
Oh, I've only heard him, so I can't vouch for the rest. So, all right. Well, that's fun.
That's fun.
Well, that's yeah. I don't know. Newsies is just, it's underwhelming to me, and I guess the bonus to having a new Newsies, like a remake made, would be that, maybe they could do some of it better, because I don't think they're gonna do like a shot-by-shot remake. Gus Van Sant's Newsies.
No, and I don't think there should be a remake.
Isn't that what you said?
No, I didn't say a remake. I said a continuation of something else going on around that time.
I thought originally you said like a new Newsies, and I thought that was one of your ideas.
No. I was just saying to get some of the new fresh talents of today to do another kind of story set in that same era.
Gotcha. Okay, that was the same idea. Understood.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So,
All right.
Dan, tell me, what are we doing on this next episode?
All right, the next episode, we're saddling up and riding back to 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, directed by George Roy Hill, starring Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Catherine Ross.
There you go.
Catherine Ross.
Yeah.
Featuring arguably the first music video to happen in the middle of a film.
So, I'm really excited. I've actually never seen it.
Oh, wow. I'm
Dan,
extra excited now.
Question for you. Well, okay, so we've definitely, we've done 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford. As far as Catherine Ross goes, we've done the Graduate. Have we done anything with Paul Newman? You're thinking.
I am. You can smell.
You're looking into the distance.
Burning. Yeah. Have we done anything with Paul Newman? Let's see.
I don't think we have.
No, I don't know if this might be our first outing with,
which is amazing.
Mr. Paul Newman.
It's amazing that it's taken this long. He's a classic.
I was thinking. I almost said HUD, but I don't. I know I just watched.
We haven't done
HUD.
that.
I don't think we did a HUD episode.
I actually haven't seen HUD.
Oh, dude, HUD is good. I watched that, and then there was another Paul
Cool
Newman.
Hand Luke, maybe.
Cool Hand Luke. I watched that not too long ago.
Cool Hand Luke is so good. We'll have to get to that at some point.
Great. But yeah, no, Paul Newman, we're just getting started here with Paul Newman. But excited for it, for Butch and Sundance.
Yeah. I'm very excited. So yeah, as Dan said earlier, our email address is ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And also all of our other social media stuff at ruinchildhoodspod at ruinchildhoodspod on Instagram. And that's where you find most of our stuff anyway. We're on TeePublic as well. We got some merch, and if you've purchased any merch from us, if you've purchased the merch, send us a picture. We'd love to see it.
Perhaps on a perch.
Lurching over.
In a lurch?
I don't know. I got nothing. Well, Dan, as you are riding on horseback to Santa Fe, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.